Hopefully.
You covered a lot of stuff last night about kind of the character and your mindset going into this. I wanted to ask you about some of the physicality of the character, particularly like the handling of guns and things like that, and how much training. Did you get much training time to do that, or even like the fighting choreography and whatnot? Like how much went into that?
Yeah, I mean that was a big part of the process, and we made sure that we had as much time as we could. It's an independent film, I think Henry Cavill gets 6 months for Superman. We had about 6 weeks, but you can get a lot done in that time, and I worked very, very hard, and there was a big nutritional shift for me, just eating a lot of protein every 2 hours, which got quite boring after a while. But also, hitting the gym hard with a guy who was pushing me through pain barriers I didn't even know existed, and then in the afternoon the martial arts, which I found particularly the discipline required for that kind of stuff. It's almost like a form of choreography, it's a form of dance really, and very, very good for the psychology of the character as much as the physicality and the aesthetic. And yeah, at lunchtime we'd go down the gun range and stand alongside members of the public firing off their weapons down by LAX, and then we went out to the desert and got on with it. So it was a lot of very unfamiliar stuff for me in this, but really fascinating getting my head around all that.
Did you learn a little bit about yourself, like when you started using guns? Because people don't realize, like when you see it in movies, everybody sees people using guns in movies, but when you fire a real gun, I mean, there's such a power that comes with that, and it really kind of teaches you about how you personally can handle that. Did you learn anything like
Yeah, I mean, even firing something like, obviously you have these blanks, and they have sort of quarter rounds, half rounds, depending on what, the look that they want to get. Sometimes it's a full round, which has pretty much the same kickback as a real, live round would, and that in itself was, it was quite a shock to me at first. And yeah, you have to, for the sake of the camera, get over that kind of the very British response to gun, and try and keep your cool. So that's as much part of the practice as actually handling the thing. And as an actor, you always, especially if you're taking on a role like this, you want to look and feel as authentic as you can. I mean, in that short time, I know that's not always possible, but we had a few good guys looking in on things, physically, how we hold the weapons, and how you load them, and really trying to, I would love somebody who had a military background to watch this and think that it wasn't too bad, Yeah.
Well, first of all, I want to say that I'm not going to invite you into my house as a guest. After
Sorry about that.
For my taste, but my roommate watched it with me last night. He brought up a really funny question I want to ask you. So he said, I wonder if, since he did a lot of killing and fighting in that movie, if you had any nightmares while sleeping.
That is an interesting question. I can't remember.
If it messed with your psyche at all.
I think it's certainly that kind of physical preparation. It has a kind of metabolic effect on you. It feel very different, particularly for the duration of the shooting. I think that may have just been all the meat, apart from anything else. But I don't know about nightmares really. No, I think I have 2 kids, and so you step in the door, it's their world, and you very quickly shrug off something as weird as David.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
It just left me. No. So a lot of people are praising your performance in this film, and it was fantastic.
Thank you.
They're saying things like you could be the next James Bond. I mean, is that really daunting? And would you want to do a lot of action films like that? Is that something?
I certainly want to do more action. I really like the action comedy side of The Guest, which I was able to explore a little bit more in Night at the Museum. I know that sounds an odd segue, but it is an odd segue career-wise anyway. But the action comedy element, I heard Simon talking about this briefly at the end there, but action sequences that have some character to them is something I've always really enjoyed. I think we've grown very used to seeing action sequences that have big budgets and lots of equipment and things blowing up and things, but actually this sort of to have a nod and a wink in the middle of all that, which actually is in the tradition of Bond, that is very Bond, to have a little one-liner thrown in the midst of this insane action sequence, or just a little raise of an eyebrow here. That's the kind of stuff I've always liked, and you see that sort of, albeit not that human in David's case, but that sort of a little flash of character that comes across in the middle of an action sequence is something I really dug about this movie. You know.
I mean, I read the Entertainment Weekly article on you
Oh, gosh.
that
What
just
did
came
that
out. The two made spread. It was nice.
Great.
You really want to stay away from anything, resembling Downton right now. You kind of want to distance yourself from that.
I wouldn't say that I would want to stay away from anything resembling Downton. I'm certainly not going to go back on that show.
Oh, okay. Yes,
I'm
of
sorry.
course.
Yeah, I don't think that's really possible.
But if like a really good English drama, period drama came up, would
Of
you
course, we're looking very much at the moment at different challenges, and it's funny the things that leap out of a script that make you go, I want to do this, and sometimes that's the wrong reason, and you do it, and you go, why did I do this? With The Guest, something leapt out of the page that made me want to try this this kind of genre, and it wasn't, it was the fact that it was a number of different genres that really appealed to me as well. The sense of humor really leapt out, and I think I hadn't had a chance to do anything as darkly funny as that for a while. And I sort of started out doing comedy. Really, I did a lot of student stand-up and stuff like that. Did a couple of Shakespearean plays that led to my being employed initially as an actor, and you sort of follow that path for a bit. Then Downton came along, things shift, and I think similarly for Adam and Simon with You're Next, like that gave us, both of us, a platform from which to go, okay, we could maybe do something that we want to do now, that we actually, is more in line with our own tastes perhaps, or, just try something new and a little bit outside of our comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And so they were stepping out of the horror classroom. I was coming from, costume drama 101, and sort of met them in the school corridor really. And it was a very exciting meeting of minds. Adam grows up in Alabama, I grew up in Britain, and we meet in the middle of the desert and realize that we both love Big Trouble in Little China. That for me is a really cool thing. The rest is in the movie, I think.
Well, going back, you talk about putting personality into the action sequence and stuff. One of the things I loved was the fact that the character always seems so put out by having to do anything.
It's an inconvenience.
Especially
those bullet wounds are just damn annoying. Yeah.
Grenades, like,
yeah.
Was that something that you got to play with and create, or was that already on the page the way it was written?
No, that was something I guess we, for me reading it was obvious, but I didn't know this at the time. But Adam and Simon were very excited by the fact that I found this also funny, and I think they'd spoken to some guys who took it a bit more seriously than I perhaps did. But then I don't take a lot of things that seriously, really. I'm serious about the work, and I love what I do, but I don't take myself too seriously as an actor. And I was up for kind of giving myself up to Adam and Simon and letting them kind of screw around with this character. But yeah, we definitely wanted to. That was part of the cool of the character, really, was that that nothing was really going to stop this guy.
Right.
And there's lots of different modes and forms that can take. So yeah, any bullet going through is just like, God damn it, it just that to me is is inherently funny. And yeah, it was part of the fun of the game, really. Yeah.
Well, since people have said the words about you possibly being the new James Bond, can you indulge us and do James Bond for us? Just so we can hear how you do it.
I need to rehearse for it.
We'll wait.
No, I think David in The Guest could give him a run for his money,
Well, I want to ask you something. I asked Daniel Craig before he became James Bond, because I met Daniel Craig when he did Layer Cake.
Okay.
Is it nerve-wracking to think that playing a character like that and what the pressures and the things that come with that, is it something you would want to do? Is it something that you think you could see yourself doing and still being able to have a family life and have your own somewhat anonymity? Because I think he kind of gave a lot of that up.
Did you really ask him all these questions?
I did ask him
wow.
that question. And
what
at
did
the
he
time-
say?
Yeah,
He's like, no, I'd never do it.
Yeah, it's exactly what
right.
he said. I did not want to do this because I would give up all my anonymity, and then like a week later he got signed to be James Bond.
That's hilarious. Well, I'm going to say exactly the same thing.
Because then you'll be James Bond.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll see what happens. What Daniel Craig said. There you go.
Did you? Sorry. Go
No.
ahead.
I was just the other thing I wanted to ask you was like in the scenes like when the talking about kind of the comedy that comes out of this, and like the scene like when they show you in the window, you just had that dead-eyed stare.
Yeah.
Were there certain influences that you drew upon? Were there other characters from films and things that maybe you wanted to say like that guy has exactly the same quality I want to bring to this character?
Yeah, there were a few. I mean, for that specific scene, I'm not sure exactly, but I know that obviously, Kurt Russell was a big influence in terms of the fun that he's having up on screen in those movies. Uma Thurman in Kill Bill. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to cite Uma as an influence, but there she is. But also, there's a great British film from the '60s called If. ... by Lindsay Anderson, which is Malcolm McDowell's first movie, and I saw that movie way too young. I think it was like 11 or something, which when you see the movie you'll realise perhaps why you shouldn't watch that. And I was going to a school that was a little bit like the school in that movie, and it put all sorts of terrible ideas in my head.
That's a cool flick.
But it is an amazing film, and very interesting film to come out of Britain, especially at that time, and it was probably the closest we got at that time to a sort of a weird twisted action comedy. But there's something about the kind of beautiful anarchy of that movie, and particularly Malcolm McDowell's performance in that. There's sort of it's just a graceful cool about it that really just sort of delighted in the weirdness of it, that I found mesmerizing as a young actor growing up, and I guess there's always an element of that in a few things I've done, but particularly in this, I was able to sort of indulge that a bit more.
Yeah.
But there's a number of for all of us really, a number of influences that fed into this. Adam made me go and sit down and watch Terminators 1 and 2 back to back, which I'd never done. I'd seen them both, but never back to back, which is an experience I recommend highly. So that had an influence too, I guess.
Cool.
Do you have any upcoming projects you want to talk about?
I guess, yeah. We've
You're
got,
so great in this, I want to see more.
Thanks, yeah. Walk Among the Tombstones is Scott Frank's movie with Liam Neeson. That's coming out on the 19th, which is a sort of hard-boiled noirish thriller. And then at Christmas we have Night at the Museum playing Sir Lancelot, which is much sillier than the other two, but yeah, like I said, it's sort of action comedy for me. And an amazing sort of world to step into, and something that my kids will be able to see before they see the guest. Yeah. Although I'm sure they'll see it way too young. Yeah.
Would you mind talking about working with Robin Williams?
I do at the moment. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's totally fun.
You also have a movie coming out, I think, is it called The Ticket? Or where you play a blind man that...
Yeah, Blind Man Who Regains His Sight. We've literally just wrapped on that. We shot that over the summer. And it was,
sounds like a really interesting concept.
It is an amazing director as well, Ido Fluke, he's been living in Williamsburg for about 8 years, an Israeli director, his first English language feature. And it was one of the most beautiful scripts I'd ever read, and I met him about a year and a half ago, and we talked, and never quite dreamed it would come together, but we managed to, put it together this summer, and very, very intense experience, and I look forward to seeing what comes out.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, very different again,
The question was just a silly question. Did you have to practice in the mirror your brooding kind of stare, like?
Only for 31 years.
Did you have to practice the ab shot?
Yeah, well, that was yes. I wish I'd started earlier, but yeah.
Is that like in the like notes? It's like, okay, today is the ab shot day. Like today's the
Yeah,
day
they thankfully they put it a little later in the shoot to give as much lead time as allowed. But,
that's like the dreaded day.
Yeah. But I mean, it's I kind of loved it because in the context of the movie, it's a gag, really. It's a funny beat. To see a character like that objectified in a way that 80s horror movies objectify a girl.
It's very
and so to see that there is a shift happening, I think, and it I like that it makes people laugh.
Yeah.
Did you do some research on how to be that Southern mentality? The yes ma'am, no ma'am, very calm and cool, and
It was interesting getting my head around the accent, and I've always enjoyed voice work and accents and that kind of thing, but to get to work that into some on-screen stuff has been great, and it really delighted me how much of that informed the character of the role. That southern drawl, that southern charm that gets him in the door, that ingratiates him to most of the family, most of the people in this world of the guest, with the possible exception of Anna, who just doesn't, she's not buying it for a second, and she is really his toughest mission to complete, to win her over and ultimately empower her, But no, I loved how that sort of southern drawl sort of affected the the mode of speech, the mode of thought. It's just a different. I wouldn't say different speed of thought, because I don't want to suggest that for a minute that Southern people think in a different. But it is a different. It's a different way of going about your business, I guess. Just take the time, and David particularly, in a very very military way, controls the flow of information to the people around him very very well. So that enables him to keep calm, I think.
Well, it's kind of funny, the sequence with, I guess, the first time you meet her, and you call her ma'am.
Right.
And then she's like, yes, ma'am. And she kind of there's almost like an undertone mocking of like, you don't talk like that for real.
Right,
But
but some people do,
Yeah.
as I've discovered. Again, as an Englishman, I'm like, huh? But you meet these people, and thank you. And I had a great friend of mine who was from Kentucky. Actually, he recorded I usually get people to record the Gettysburg Address, just so that I had all the sounds and consonants and vowels and things. And so I had that, to sort of play off and learn from a little bit. And just, it's fascinating to me getting to know the United States a bit better and realizing what an absolutely enormous country this is. And I knew there was a spectrum, but just realizing quite how diverse and complex that is, and what a weird place, New Mexico is compared to New York, and yet you're united apparently, which is it's amazing. Yeah, well done.